Oh yeah, I forget there's a microphone in front of me. So can everybody hear me? Yeah. Okay. Before I start my speech, I'll just say, look, my name is Claire Freeman. I'm a tetraplegic. I had a car accident when I was 17 years old, and I have basically lost a lot of function in my arms and my legs. So that's sort of where I'm coming from. And to be honest with you, I was very pro-euthanasia for, I would say, 2 decades. And it got to the point where I had actually attempted suicide a number of times. It hadn't worked. I'd ended up in hospital. But I'd never actually had any help. I just got sent home, and people assumed it was because of my disability that I was depressed. It had nothing to do with that. It was other factors, such as working too hard. Anyway, so I'm opposed to the end-of-life choice bill that's currently going through Parliament. Why? In part because of my experience, and because of the concern shared with me by many who would qualify. And for those who don't know, I was encouraged to explore assisted suicide by one of the Christchurch suicide outreach clinics psychiatrists in 2015. Now, he was there to help me, and he still works there. But what I got was encouragement to choose assisted suicide overseas because, as he said, he understood why somebody with my condition would not want to live. And unfortunately, this perception is actually the norm within our society. I'm an academic, so I've done a lot of research on this, and it's around 80%. I was discharged without follow-up, as always. Yet, I know it's not the treatment that's given to able-bodied people. They get support, and I got encouraged to die. And that's a huge disparity, yet it's my reality, and the reality of many who receive different treatment due to our perceived loss of quality of life from our impairments or conditions. We are of value, we deserve the same treatment, not some health professional's belief about what it might be like to live with this impairment and how it equates to a poor quality of life, which I can tell you is not the case. Well, not anymore. There will be people that choose assisted dying, and I don't want to minimise their decision, but life is not black and white. There will be those who choose it in desperation, or from depression, or possibly from coercion, or not knowing how to cope and begin to understand what life is like living with their diagnosis. Impairments and illnesses can be scary for people, for their family and friends, because it is an unknown. I get that it's scary, but it terrifies me that on a bad day or week or sometimes months, the option of an easy death is there as a seductive option during those extremely vulnerable moments. I've spoken to a number of disabled and chronically ill people who feel that their voices, our voices, aren't being heard. We need to be heard because we could be eligible. People need to understand alongside choice can come hasty decisions based on fear and over time potential widening of the criteria, because once this is in law, it's much easier to challenge and widen the criteria. And how do we mitigate that risk? I find it frustrating that we are considering a matter of life and death in such a casual manner. Please take the time to research what other countries that have introduced this option of assisted suicide, what they've learned. Research suicide, research fear of the unknown and of dying. I mean, ethically, we simply aren't there yet. And I've spoken to bioethicists who share those concerns, particularly in Canada, where the criteria is being challenged to include other conditions. Now, you see, I was in hospital recently, it was actually 2 weeks ago, because having a spinal cord impairment is a complex condition. Like with many other conditions, there are secondary issues, and this time it was osteoarthritis. My left hip that was problematic. My bones have been described as like crumbling chalk. However, my biggest problem was that the orthopaedic ward was not equipped for people with my condition or in a wheelchair. The budget did not extend to include medical equipment I needed, such as catheters, and the ward had no disabled toilets. So already I'm feeling like I'm a problem within our health system. It's simply not set up for people with my condition, people who use a wheelchair, and I was left feeling like I was a burden because I was in hospital. It's obvious that our health system is struggling. Many issues need to be addressed before we start the choice and compassion discussion regarding assisted suicide. And if we can live with the fact that there will be wrongful deaths alongside those who choose assisted suicide, then sure, put this bill into law. I mean, how is this any different to re-establishing the death penalty? Choose the crime, do the time. I mean, that's about choice, isn't it? There might be some innocents who died too, but who cares, right? I mean, think about it. It's the same issue with this bill. Not everyone will choose this. For many, I know it will be a solution. As a Kiwi, that makes me really sad, and to be honest, it's heartbreaking. And it shouldn't be an issue that we're contemplating. We help our most vulnerable. We do not get rid of them. This bill is poorly written. It is dangerous. This is not about taking choice away from Kiwis. It is about exposing the danger of this bill. Thank you.